Welcome to the Realty Trader Talk podcast, sponsored by realtytrader.com. Today's guest is someone very special, a huge titan in the real estate industry, big broker that's brought me in. I've learned underneath his mentorship. Richard McKinney, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great, and thank you for having me, and thank you for the warm introduction.
Oh, you're more than welcome, sir.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start today's podcast off with a question, and it's going to be, what is something that people don't know about Richard McKinney?
That's a great question. I think that, in order to answer that, you have to kind of think about who you are, why you brought me on the show, a mentor and a businessman, and, maybe a real estate broker, which is what you know. But what would someone want to know about me other than those things is that I've always been obsessed with leadership, psychology, and human potential. And I have a little saying, the last few years is, and this is really important now because of AI and all these other things. I think more and more I see myself in the human capital business.
You're going to have to elaborate on that. What do you mean, human capital business? What do you mean by that?
A big part of, my journey is personal development. I know, a lot of us have aspirations to be better. And I think part of that journey now is humans being better people, and not just better salespeople or better at their craft, but also being better humans, being better leaders. There's a lot of needers, Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of leaders. And I think, that more than ever is needed, not just in the real estate business, just in any business and in all environments.
I want to take it back to when Richard McKinney got into this business. What year was that, and what kind of led you into real estate?
Okay, so I moved to Florida in 1997, followed a girl down here, plans to start a family. And I had a gentleman that I knew very well in Atlanta, and he was in real estate, more in the investing side. And he always said to me, you should get into real estate. And so when I came down here, I went to class, the real estate school, and passed that, and then had to go to Orlando. In fact, I had to go to Orlando 3 times before I passed the test. Back then, you couldn't do it on a computer. You had to drive all the way to Orlando with a number 2 pencil, sit in a cafeteria, and take the test. And driving back twice without the license was, pretty nerve-wracking. So when I finally got the license, I went and interviewed several places. First place I wanted to work at actually didn't hire me, believe it or not. I think I was a little high-tech for them. And he, said, I'm not sure you'll fit in with my crowd. I was the youngest member of the board when I joined up, the board of realtors.
Really?
Yeah. They said, you're the youngest person here. And I was 27. Mm-hmm. And so, he didn't. He's like, I'm not sure, this is a right fit. And it turns out it wasn't.
Best decision that happened then, I'm sure.
It did.
For
it
you.
Kind of propelled me to where I went.
I also had to take my test, I think, 3 times. Yeah. Between leadership and growing with people and networking with people. They say even in sales, a lot of salespeople aren't necessarily the best in paperwork. And I see that with you, like my wife is amazing at paperwork and myself, not as much. But as far as networking and sales and growing, I excel in that. You have to have other people in your team or your support system who can handle those things.
Yeah, you do. And that's why, it really is important for a really good salesperson who maybe is not the best at paperwork or not doing the best part of the job by focusing on paperwork to get an assistant or a transaction coordinator to handle that, because that puts them in the best position for them and what they do best, which is be face-to-face with a customer.
So with you growing a team of over 100 agents, I don't know where you're at now, but I know it's over 100. Is that something that you put in place or you help these agents? I mean, how do you get to 100 of them when there's all different personalities or things that, people fall short in?
I think it's one thing when you start talking about real estate teams specifically, or real estate offices, people throw out these big numbers. We have hundreds of agents or 150 agents are doing so many millions in sales. I think what is more important to kind of look at is agent productivity and the amount of lives you change in the process. And so that's kind of been my, goal when you asked me that first question, what is something that people don't know about me? What I tried to focus on, and I didn't always think this way. I was like a lot of people getting into this business, transactional. Hey, I needed to make a sale and I had to, learn. And so I grew just from experience, just like you and everybody else, through trial and error. And, the 2008 collapse really changed this business forever, in my opinion. And we can talk about that a little bit more. But getting back to the how we grew, it is more of a culture of success. Your best recruiter is success. And people want to be around that. And they become curious. And then it becomes, when you're attracting that, it's more of, do we align? Do we have alignment? Are you someone, or are they someone that we can build with? And, that's where the other success comes in, is meeting those right people. Mm-hmm. And, you have to kiss a lot of frogs. But for the most part, we were pretty good at the selection process.
I know you're number 1 in Florida for RE/MAX for a team, and I know you're in the top 10 of RE/MAX in the nation. Putting those systems in place and, like you said, kissing a lot of frogs. I know to get to that point, you've gone through a few agents, some good, some bad. I hope I'm one of the good ones. But what would you say that Richard McKinney or the Richard McKinney team does different than 90% of the other agents or teams?
Not only do you have to have great people, but you have to have a system and a process and a set of standards in place for people to follow. Because the fact is, like I touched on before, is a lot of people get into this business and they don't really have a plan. They just know, I need to make a sale. And then they get in and find out pretty quickly that their friends don't buy houses every month. So they're going to have to learn the sales process, which is largely prospecting, qualifying, showing property, writing contracts, going through a complicated escrow period. And then if you're lucky in the end, you have a closing, and you do that on average, the average agent, 4 to 6 times a year, which is pretty sad. And then you have numbers like we had the last 2 years where, over 70% of all agents didn't sell a house. Yeah. So those type of numbers are, things that those are things that I don't want to see in this business. So getting the right people, the right systems in place, and you asked specifically how we do it. I mean, we're a lead gen type of environment that can help people. A good agent can become a great agent pretty quickly. You can go from 6 sales to 12 to 20 to 30 to 60.
My previous time in real estate back in 2012, I knew you, and I don't know where your team was at 2012, but I knew you as a great agent and, what you've done. But I've seen now, since I've got back into the industry and grown, it seems like I call them titans in the industry, the Zillows or the Realtor.coms or those, have such a stronger piece in it. They were just getting in and, with the lead gen, and I did a little bit of it, but they didn't have the understanding that they do how, or their foot wasn't in the door on it. They were just learning it, and it wasn't what it's grown into today. And it seems like the brokerages that are higher in this, as far as Florida goes, or our area of what I know, have a relationship with these larger companies, the ones that are surviving. It seems like the ones that don't have a relationship with Zillow or Realtor are becoming obsolete. What would you say about that?
I think you have to first as an agent go to where the customer is.
Mm-hmm.
And, most people nowadays begin their process online.
Mm-hmm.
And the most popular of all those sites is Zillow. And there are others, Realtor.com, Redfin. So if you want to be where the customer is, would just be a logical decision if I told you there were 100 sellers gathering at the local Walmart.
Where are you going to go? Right.
Where are we going to be? We're going to stand
Right.
there. So let me give you an example. When the foreclosure crisis hit, there were a home sold foreclosures up at the courthouse steps up in Fort Pierce. And for every auction, there were 10 to 30 people standing out there, and they had put down a $5,000 cashier's check and they bid on the house. Well, if there were 30 there, 29 walked away with their money back because they didn't get the house. Well, I was standing there handing out business cards, so I was going to where the sellers were.
But I think that's the dog in you that drives that.
I mean, it is. And that's if you want to call it the dog, dog, there's got to be a dog in those companies. And where real estate brokerages made a big mistake was not going after the customer, not going right toward the customer. And there's always going to be someone that wants to sell something. There's not always going to be someone that wants to buy something. And so when real estate market turned, getting back to that in 2008, brokerages really didn't know what to do. And so they consolidated. A lot of agents left the business. The brick and mortar shrunk. And then that kind of opened it up for teams to start developing. And then teams went after lead sources that brokers were no longer providing. When I got into the business, your broker advertised.
Mm-hmm.
You were on a 50-50 split, but they had ads going out, the phone rang at the office. And they encouraged you to advertise yourself. But they provided, at least half of the income initially when I started. When brokers stopped providing the leads and started giving higher splits, then agents started going to find those sources. So, yes, there are many ways to generate income. If you want to scale, though, if you want to go from, 5-6 deals a year to, especially in the market, the environment that we're in now, you're going to have your hand in a lot of different networks. And one of those is online lead generation. The one other thing that makes it so valuable here is that when you talk about real estate and you talk about where the buyer comes from, we call those feeder markets. And feeder markets from here tend to come from the northeastern United States, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. So capturing that customer early in the process and then nurturing them for 5, 6, 7, 8. We just closed one that was 27 months.
Wow.
In our system. We've closed them over 2 years in our system. And so when you can capture that customer early in the process, develop a relationship, help them get to know them, then have a transaction, that's a valuable thing. And so, we do have those relationships. They're not all we focus on, but they are a big part of consistency, which to me is really important in any business.
Again, where it wasn't, where it is now from me learning is where the CRMs now with that follow-up and that nurturing, that the way the technology has changed from, let's just say, 20 years ago where you were or 10 years ago when you were on the steps handing out cards to where it is today, the real estate industry has changed of how you reach those people, how you get out in front of them. And if you're not utilizing this technology, you're not going to make it. I have a CRM and I have automations and I have all these things in order to be successful in my business. So if you're not adding these new technologies, you're not going to make it. What do you think with these new technologies, if these new agents who aren't coming in or they're coming in and they're burning out in 2 years, if you have a team of 100 agents, like what are you doing that's, one, with these CRMs or this technology, and then two, how are you keeping these agents from burning out?
Going back to the technology, I think that things are going to change. Technology is going to change. 12 years ago, people weren't using an e-signature.
Right.
A lot of agents were reluctant to do that. Some banks, in fact, during the foreclosure crisis, wouldn't accept an e-signature. Now that's commonplace. It then went into transaction management software. We have our own software. All of that is changing. My wife, for instance, who's my partner and excellent at what she does, she runs all of that back end stuff. Any software that in the back end, especially, or the front end of the business, that makes you more effective and efficient is a good thing. What a lot of people don't understand about, getting online leads or Zillow. Number one, that's where the customer is. And the customer thinks highly of those portals than they do of us. So you shouldn't talk negative about it.
And so legitimacy, if you're on those
100%.
portable, it doesn't get any bigger, right?
So you're not going to win that
battle, right?
That battle. You're not going to win it. But the second thing is they have the technology that can help you do 6 deals or 10 deals or 12 deals a year of your own business to transform that into 24 or 30. And then think about the future impact of those extra 14 deals. 14 extra deals a year that you probably wouldn't have been able to do is going to transfer into 14 to an uncountable amount of future referral business. You're not really in the real estate business till you get to 100 sales. You're getting to elite when you get to 200 sales because you have 200 past customers referring you people. And that's when you can actually scale back. If you're an individual agent or maybe if you're working on a team, you can get you can work a little, you can tone down your prospecting a little bit. Now, me, because I believe in on the paranoid survive, I'm always going to be innovating and trying to stay ahead of the curve, the tech curve. But, to keep people from burning out or to help them, relieve them from burning out, tech is the way.
Right. Before, I think if you had, this sphere of influence, or you had some marketing abilities or a social network or whatever your case may be, if you don't have that Zillow or that piece into your business now, they're taking so much of that market share. For as far as from the buyer's standpoint, if you're a buyer's agent and you're not connected to that somehow, it's going to be very hard for you to survive in this industry, it seems.
Think about it this way. Anyone who's in your sphere right now is also on the sphere of Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin. They may be your best friend and your customer. But if they get online and start searching and they get to talking with someone else who's a perceived expert and they don't see you there, you're in a dogfight. You've met another dog. And it would be naive for an agent to not think that someone else can take your customer.
Oh, if you have all agents are not created the same. I know that for a fact, and I see this in this industry. And for me personally, to come back in this industry and in my first year, do what I've done and sell what I've sold, and I see other agents who come in their first year and, like you said, 0 homes. If I know my customers have called me and said, hey, I've seen this home on Zillow, I've seen this home on Realtor, and, you pull it up, it happens every day. So if you have somebody with a good sales ability on the other end of that phone, when they click and want to get information or just a quick question, 100%, that's you're out of there.
Yeah. And, that gets back to, when you asked me about team building and attracting, whatever you want to call it, recruiting, we're not just bringing in bodies. I want to bring in someone who is not an opportunist agent or a part-time agent. We want to bring in a lifestyle agent. We want someone who has the same goals we do, who's motivated, self-motivated, and really wants to not just transact on a house, but wants to master the business. And I think that that's something this industry has been lacking for about 10 years is mastery. People are chasing transactions and not chasing real business relationships and mastery.
You now have 5 locations. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Do you see with building your team or building and growing, do you think that these other brokerages, and I just want to touch on this last time, because if you have these 5 brokerages and I just see these I'm going to call them mega teams or mega brokerages if you have 100 plus. Without this mastery or these skill sets of what you're doing, are you going to be taking over these other brokerages? Are they going to even be able to compete, or are they going to merge together?
Well, you're seeing that now, and this is something I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I predicted the future, because, I didn't. But what I did see was I saw a lot of teams moving away from being a broker owner to working for the online or the, cloud brokerages, and not many of them going back to the franchise model, which is what I inevitably decided to do with the brick and mortar. And the reason I went that way is because, number one, I don't follow the crowd. I've never been that type of person. I saw what I always look at, not from the lens of a real estate agent or a broker. I look at it from the lens of the customer. Who is the customer? What does the customer want? And I knew from my 27 years in the real estate business that I always had to compete with RE/MAX. And it wasn't until the recession that, that changed. And so I saw an opportunity, not while most people are running to cloud brokerages, for us to go with a tried and true franchise, for us to go into brick and mortar, because I can get commercial rents pretty reasonable. I also had an opportunity to buy the commercial building on US 1 near Port St. Lucie Boulevard, which I think was a great investment. I've had multiple people offer me nearly double what we paid for that now. And so I wanted to, leverage that idea combined with great training, lead generation, high level support, and really go after the customer. What is the customer? Who is your customer? What is the demographic? There's a lot of people chasing a under 35 customer. That's not our customer right now. They're having serious affordability issues. Our customer right now is mid 50s, late 50s, and retirees. And so if you're going to attract them, you're probably not going to attract them on ChatGPT. You're going to have to reach them in different areas. So I'm a big believer in going to where the customer is and getting that customer and having our agents trained and knowledgeable and competent to help them all the way to the closing.
Do you foresee in the future, because I know, you have a lot of inside information I always get to talk to you about, why doesn't Zillow just merge with all these companies, buy them up, and it's just a giant Zillow brokerage everywhere? Do you have any insight on that?
If you've ever owned a real estate brokerage or managed a team, or even knowing what you know about real estate agents, independent contractors, they're like herding cats.
Absolutely.
And so Zillow is basically a marketing company, a data company, an information company, all in one. And it makes more sense to partner with agents
and leave the headaches with
and
the rest
leave
of them.
the headaches and all that stuff with it. I think that they're obviously interested in real estate. They're interested in the ancillaries that come along with it, mortgage, title, things like that. And so, but they make probably $1 billion a year just in advertising,
right?
To Home Depot and Lowe's and all the other people that do it. So it really is a very good business model, and other online sources are great business models. And I think that there are a couple of brokerages that have seen that and have tried and are trying to do it. Do I think that they're going to try to get in the real estate business? No, I don't. That they have not made any plans that I can see to do that. Do people have a lot of Zillow derangement syndrome, and think that might happen? Yes, but I don't see it.
Back to your brick and mortar on RE/MAX and then cloud brokerages. I saw something on social media about RE/MAX merging or partnering with Realty, and I know they're known for their tech. Is that just talks? Is that something coming in the pipeline? Is that something you can speak on?
I can speak on it. Yes, it's true. Real brokerage which is a cloud-based brokerage
Mhm.
model that's been very successful, has agreed in principle to purchase Remax. They're going to run the two brands separately.
Mhm.
And I think it's great for both brands.
Mhm.
I think it's great for Remax because when we came to Remax, one thing that if they were lacking on anything, it was a little bit of the technology.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously they have had the big brand, but I think it's a great deal for Remax to get a hold of that technology to help us be more efficient.
Mhm.
But it's also a big win for real. A lot of people, especially real estate agents, don't understand is that Remax agents outsell other agents 2 to 1. And it used to be 3 to 1.
Mhm.
It shrunk a little bit now, but our agents outsell their agents, on a per agent basis. So when you're adding that type of volume into the business, you're immediately gaining 140,000 plus agents, and you're able to bring those into the network, which is injecting capital in. Yes, they did take on Remax's debt, but as far as I can see, I think it's a big win for both. And so when you're able to bring all the benefits from Real, the stock, the profit sharing, anything like that, and the technology, and they inject that in the Remax, I think it's a win-win for the brand.
What does that do for Richard McKinney and the Richard McKinney team and what you're building? Is that going to scale you quicker? What do you foresee with the changes?
Well, that remains to be seen. I've always been the type of person that I create my own economy. So for Richard McKinney, I think, the outlook is good. We run a good operation, I think. I mean, we've been able to grow. Not many offices have grown in the last 3 years. We went from basically $160 million team to nearly 450 million in sales last year, and we're going to do close to 600 million, maybe more this year. And then next year, I'd like to be the first office in this area to do $1 billion in sales. We could do that. We really could. And so, do I think that that's going to help us? Absolutely. I'm not looking for the next best thing. I'm looking for the next evolution. And if this is helping us evolve, helping us to be more effective, helping our agents grow, and it's great for the customer, then that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Coming over to Remax, immediately when I came over, I excelled my career some, and I did probably 20% more once I transferred over. And for this year, I'm definitely looking to double my business. I'm more than on track to it. So I think having that Remax name behind you, and it just like what we talked about with Zillow earlier, having that Titan back you. When I go and sit down with a customer and I say, hey, I'm a Remax agent, I'm also with one of the largest Remax teams in Florida, it gives you that instant, like, okay, I'm doing business with someone who knows what they're doing. They've been around, they're with a quality company, and it just creates quality. I've beat other agents at other brokerages on listing appointments on just, I feel, one, my skill set, but also that Remax name. So, I mean, you definitely have that. And now with Real behind it and this technology, I'm personally excited for it. I think it's going to be huge for it. And I think it's just going to really excel what, they're doing.
Well, I do too, but I will also say there are going to be brokerages, and not just with the Remax, Real merger. There was another merger recently. There are going to be people that are going to turn that into massive success, and then there are going to be others that fail. That is business in general. I think that iron sharpens iron,
100%.
and I think when you get around winners, it's contagious. And unfortunately, somewhere along the way, people got away from that. And I have a saying: there's no growth from the couch to the kitchen. If you're going to sit online in your closet office all day, and even if you're going on Zoom and you know having online friends and things like that, it's a race to the bottom. It's a race to the bottom, and you're going to get online and you might stir up some stuff in a low level chat room, and you get your what I call the barking seals,
Mhm.
agreeing with you. That's not challenging you and moving you forward. Those people aren't helping you close transactions in the ninth hour when the buyer is short on funds. Those people aren't helping you with a vendor to get a house cleaned out where a seller left it a disaster. Those people aren't helping you talk a buyer off the ledge when the interest rate spiked, when they were raising the rates on a new construction deal and they went from 6 to 7%. And so that type of environment of leadership, mentorship, and what I call a strong broker mentality, not a cloud-based online, somebody working out of their house, 100 miles away, that really hasn't sold very many houses, that's not going to get you to that next level.
Oh, 100%. I had a conversation with somebody today about the same thing, actually, about, why I'm at this brokerage and what I'm doing and it's because iron sharpens iron. And I could be at big fish, small pond very easily. I could
Yeah.
go into one of these small agencies, be number one very easily, but I'm around other sharks, other, people who are doing the business. And when I walk in and, I have a very successful month, I'm going to have a great month this month, I'm going to be in the top 5. I'm not going to be number 1, and it's going to be a great month. If you're not around these other people who are doing the thing, and, me personally, when I wasn't around these people and I started going the wrong direction, it follows the same. If you're around people who are doing bad things and terrible things, you end up, falling and doing these bad, terrible things. So, led me to a bad place. Now I'm back and I'm around people who are doing the thing, growing. I mean, doing big numbers, helping a lot of families. You have a lot of people in that same brokerage who are part of the board, the VP of the board, Greg, is amazing guy. So if you're around these people, you're going to succeed. You're going to want to be what they are. You're going to want to do what they're doing. And that's hands down. So if you're running a brokerage that's not doing these things, like you said, from the couch to the kitchen, you're just headed this direction.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of people, and even in leadership, that are chasing a transaction. A business planning is, a vision board, taking childproof scissors and glues and magazines and making a vision board. But what about the action board? And then that motivation that you have when you leave that room, it doesn't last. That vision board's in the back of your car. It's up against the wall later on. And then where's that continued support? Because the success is going to come in the consistency and the discipline of following that plan and taking the action. And it's inevitable. Most people are going to get off the rails. So being in that environment and being with those people that aren't going to let you do that, and it's called accountability. And accountability is the highest form of love. And if you can have people that are saying, "Hey, man, what happened? Tell me, what happened in that deal, or what happened to your goals," and then you tell them what happened, and then they say, "Well, are you ready to recommit? Is this the plan for you now? What are you gonna do? And how can I help you?" And so, that's where real growth lies to me, is in that leadership. And you have a lot of old, antiquated theories that have been proven now. They don't work anymore.
I found this other one.
They don't work anymore. And we've proved it doesn't work anymore, because those type of offices have lost a lot of business. And I want to say to you, Jordan, it's costing real estate careers. And so we're going to have to get better. That's why I say I'm in the human capital business. I want better people. I want to help them see their potential and realize their potential. And if I leave my footprint on here, on this business, I want it to be that Richard helped me go from broke to owning a house, making a consistent, multiple 6-figure income, building a real business, and being a successful real estate salesperson, and helping a lot of people. That would make me happy. And if I can help enough people do that, I'll make a little bit of money in the process.
Absolutely. I see it every day that, you're not talking about it, you do it. These agents who go out and, like for me, I go out to a property and this poor family member passed away. Property was in, disarray, and they were going to have to sell it at, a rock bottom or a wholesale type price, and was able to help them and connect them with people, got some floors, paint, some different things done, roof, and they ended up selling it for $70,000 more. Couldn't be happier with the process, was under contract within 7 days. And I mean, I think that's the type of things that you when you're around these agents who are doing the thing and pushing, it would be easy enough to just, let this person sell it for nothing, be done, and move on. But through leadership and, doing the right thing and helping people, being able to do that is something that, I know I've picked up there. At RE/MAX, Richard McKinney, if you went to no agents, had nothing, and we're going to start back again, no contacts, 90 days, what's your first 90 days look like in the business?
New agent,
New agent.
I'm going to find a mentor. And I want to tell you something. I'm going to do it the way I did it back then. I picked the office that I thought I would be the most successful at. And there were people that were like me, that were ambitious. Ambition is really one of the key things to being a good real estate agent. And there's so much negative light that's put on the word ambition and competition nowadays. I find someone that I could learn from, that I trusted, that was moving the needle. Not someone I'd look and say, hey, what kind of sales do they have? Where are they going? Who have they built up? And that's what I do. I get in and learn, and I pull the things out that they did great, and I'd make them better.
And I think that competition and ambition, you hear people use it negatively, and I think it's all the purpose behind it.
Yeah.
Competition and ambition, if you're doing it for the right reason, and, I'm a God guy, so I always try to, talk to God first to make sure I don't let that pride or ego or myself creep in. But I mean, ambition and competition is good. That's kind of what I mentioned with that big fish, small pond. I like the competition, but I want to do it in a good way. I want to make sure I'm doing it for the right reasons. But I mean, I think that competition can be healthy.
It definitely can be healthy, and I think it's the arrogance that is the part that's not good. But I think the right amount of ambition, and you sprinkle that in with a good work ethic, and surrounding yourself with winners, and stop looking at getting up out of bed and getting in your car and driving to an office as collecting a paycheck. A lot of people get in this business and they don't see an opportunity unless there's a check attached to it. Well, how much am I going to get paid? Or I'm not going to get paid today, and I'm going to have to lug these people around. You realize how many people that you and I have put in our cars, shown properties, and never transacted? And you know what? I wouldn't have it either way, any other way.
Right.
I've been a straight commission salesperson since I was 27 years old. And I wouldn't have it any other way. It's fun. It's a fun game, man. It's been a good ride.
I'm the same. I've been in business for myself since I was 16, except for a year and a half when I had got out of jail and I went and worked with my cousin at Marine Connection, which love you guys. Thank you. But I think that's again, when you find those people that have that dog in them are going to go out and get it. And now putting the people in the car, what you said, and, driving around, yes, they might not buy today, but if you really come from a helpful mindset and that you're here to help them, they're going to tell 10 people that you've done that. And it will turn into, you will be blessed beyond belief if you do it for the right reasons. I fully believe that. And I think from experience, and that is definitely the way to approach business. If you're not, you need to pray about it and go talk to somebody.
Yeah, you definitely, you can't be in it just for the check. You can't be in it just for the check. You got to be in it for the people. You got to be in it for the relationship, and not just with the customer. Let me tell you something. People have said to me 10, 12, 15 years ago, Richard, why aren't you a broker now? Why aren't you doing this now? You know why? It's because I didn't have the right people. Number one, didn't have the right partner, my wife.
Mhm.
You know how hard it is to build a business and to be successful without a good relationship at home. I'm real fortunate.
Mhm.
I've got the best of both worlds.
Mhm.
I've got,
Amen.
my life partner
Mhm.
at home every night. And then I've got her at work where she's sharp, smart. We have the same goals. She also got me into her goals, which is cruising. We're
Amazing,
going on a
right?
cruise in a couple
That's
weeks.
right.
And so, it's one thing to do it for the customer. It's another thing where you said that passion and a mission of this is what we're going to do. This is the leadership. When we decided to do this Remax, the market was changing, and we called. We that whole deal with Remax, went down. We made the decision we're gonna do this, and we called actually the whole team over to our house, and we didn't tell them why. Just said, hey, Sunday night, and we did it on short notice too, and everybody got to the house, and they're all gathered around. And let me tell you something, Jordan. Every one of them showed up, and there was a lot of I'm not going to use the word confusion, but there was a lot of, let's say, curiosity, wonder, and there was a lot of change going in the market right then. The interest rates had went up, and the market has slowed down. And I said to them, hey, you're going to enter the worst real estate market you've ever seen. Not the worst one that I've ever seen, but this is going to be a process, a transition to something that you haven't been through. And I'm here to tell you, it's going to be good for you. There's going to be a lot of growth there. You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to make more money. And by the way, we're going to Remax. And let me tell you something. Every single one of them was on board. And most of them are still with me. Most of them are still there. You know them. Been with us, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. It meant a lot to have that trust and confidence from them. And it just makes that passion and that mission just more. We don't want to fail for ourselves, but we don't want to fail for them.
Mhm.
And that's a lot to carry on your shoulder, that type of mission, not just for your family, but for other people's families. And that's real important to me.
Mhm.
Real important to me. So the people, it goes both ways, customers and who you surround yourself with. And, being on that same trajectory, like when you and I talked, I told you, this is not going to be easy.
Mhm.
It's going to be hard. And I think your exact words were good.
Right.
Let's fucking go.
Mhm.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
And, that's just, that's
Great.
my mentality.
Mhm.
I don't want it to be easy.
Mhm.
I don't want a handout. I don't want it to be free. I expect it to be hard. And I tell everybody that comes in to talk about working in real estate, this is going to be hard. It's going to be really hard with me. It's going to be a lot harder over there, if not nearly impossible. You make the decision.
Yes, sir. Richard McKinney, I appreciate you coming on here today.
Yeah.
This was a great podcast. I love talking about real estate with you. I do it every day. I love it.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you.
Hey, man, I love you, brother. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
And keep going.
Appreciate it.
And if you're watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and make it a great day.
Yes, sir. Okay, Realty Trader Talk podcast, sponsored by realtytrader.com. Like, share, subscribe. Trying to get my subscribers up. I appreciate it. See you guys next time.